Liaison for Utilities and Public Works, and a motion to that effect would be in order.
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Akers and Mr. Seeley. Primary and secondary. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We have completed appointments, consent agenda, and if the board will excuse me, I actually made a mistake. I know that's hard to believe, yeah. All right, I made a mistake in neglecting that to add Mr. Ashcraft's recommendation for the museum board, which is in the county administrator's report. It's $2,000 for signage for the museum. So if we can make that consent agenda item I.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that be removed. I think we need to look at the funding that's coming out of the tourism budget at this point to make sure the money is there. I also would like to know what Bowling Green is going to contribute to the pot. They have indicated they're willing to, but haven't given us the amount. So I'd like to know what they're going to contribute. Okay. Plus, I'd like to know whether there's money in the budget.
He's here.
Mr. Manson's gone too?
No, he's here. He's in the back.
Mr. Master, I know you're at this point in time, you are just a member of the audience, but if you'd like to share a little from the town of Bowling Green, if you can, we sure would appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, this matter was brought before the town council at its last meeting last week, and there was no amount that was specified by council. They'll be considering it again at their April meeting. The council is very supportive of participation in the funding for the signage for the museum, but again, no amount was stated by town council.
I'm very supportive of the fact that they put a sign up recognizing the museum and letting people know where the museum is at. But I think we need to talk about funds. First, we have really taken money out of the tourism budget for many, many programs. And I question as to whether there is enough money to spare to give this $2,300.
$2,277.72.
Okay.
And quite frankly, I think council would have a similar concern. Possibly the discussion might lead to maybe funding a portion of the sign program this fiscal year and maybe looking at it again in future year.
Okay, yeah, and I think just we need to know more about it before we put it on the agenda, consent agenda to be approved. Let's just pull it and we'll talk about it at the next meeting. I think it's the best thing to do to give us a
Mr. Manster,
to look at.
Mr. Manster, is there any way, and I know town council meets once a month.
Yes, sir.
Is there any way that you could possibly get us some sort of idea of what the town would be willing to commit by our next meeting, which is the 22nd?
We will definitely have it on our agenda for the first Thursday in April, sir.
Okay.
And I'll bring you what I can.
All right, so we're not going to be able to do anything for the 22nd, so we'll have to wait until after your meeting in April, then we can identify the two. Okay.
Okay.
That's fair. It's, and I think on the consent agenda is an adoption of resolution for support of the Civil War History Museum, History Mobile, which coincides with the grand opening, which I think is in June or July, August, September.
I believe we're looking at August or September.
I have somebody who's there and signaled to me September. So we have time to get signage up for September, so we'll just pull that. That was going to be agenda item I, so it's not. Then we'll address the consent agenda items A through H as they are. Any board member like to pull any agenda item off? Thank you, Mr. Manster.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull B, C, D, E, and H.
B, C, D, and H.
E and H.
B, C, D, E, and H.
Yes, sir.
Anybody like to pull any other items off the consent agenda? Okay. Pretty good consent agenda now. We have agenda item A, which is the approval of warrants. Agenda item F, which is an adoption of the resolution expressing support of the arrival and display of the Civil War History Mobile in conjunction with the grand opening of Caroline Museum and Cultural Center. And agenda item G, which is the adoption of the resolution declaring a local emergency necessitating the prohibition of open-air fires. Is there a motion to approve items A, F, and G?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Popowitz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item B, Mr. Seeley.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I have a couple of questions about agenda item number, or letter B. And we, at our January board meeting, had asked for a copy of all the wells in the county, a map of where they were located and what facilities were there. And we have on here to, you know, we're doing power to one, and we're actually looking at borrowing money for more wells. And I'd like to see what facilities we have and what they actually have before we move forward on some of these things, because they keep coming to us, and we never seem to have any idea where we're really going.
Mr. Sheba, would you like to address that question now?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I have a copy here for the board members.
For each of us? Okay. Thank you. I don't know. And
Does it tell us which of these actually have backup generators already on them?
Currently, in the Carmel Church Ladysmith system, we do not have any wells that have a backup generator, nor do we have any on our well system in Milford.
So where do we have backup generators?
We have backup generators on all of our sewage pump stations as required by the Virginia Department of Health.
But none on any of the wells?
That's correct. Not on Milford or the Carmel Church. We do have one for the high school, middle school system. The poorhouse system does have a generator on one of the wells there. There's 3 pages here that show the current facilities that we have, as well as the projected facilities that we want to install as part of the $1.8 million borrowing that will be discussed later.
But we have borrowed some funds for sand filters, and did we borrow money for power? I mean, for backup generators?
That was done prior to the actual borrowing for that, so there's already been money borrowed for that. There's $75,000 that was allocated to doing these generators. The one located on the Milford well will also back up the cannery as well as the sewage pump station at this facility. Currently, we have one generator that can run this facility and the Dawn facility, and we will use that generator to help support the EOC during inclement weather for sewage, as well as the water. So it'll actually be serving 2 purposes.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have an issue with actually doing the generator, but I'd like to see what the plan is, because I pulled agenda item number C because it's another well, and I would like to study the well situation that we've got, since we've never seen this before we move forward. We're borrowing more money for wells, we've borrowed money for wells, and this is the first map that I've seen that even indicates where we have wells. The other thing, could we get what these are producing? Gallons per minute, gallons per, however you want to.
Yes, sir, I've got a
lay it
graph
out.
that shows that.
'Cause I'd like to also have that as well, to get some idea of what we're doing.
Okay, so you'd be okay with item 4B, which is the,
Item 4B.
B is the approval of the purchase over $7,500 for the generator.
For the generator. I want to understand, item 4C,
All right,
I don't know that we have,
let me
I'm
just
just
do them
saying
one
they're
at a time.
tied, that's
I mean,
fine.
just let me do them one at a time.
That's
So B, you're okay with?
B, I'm okay with, I understand.
Okay. So now we're on to C.
Well, you want to go ahead and do 4B while we're.
No, I want to get as many positives first, so I got B is positive, C is the award for $43,000 for a well. $43,380 to award a bid for a well. Adequate funds were included in the fall borrowing for this particular well.
And I guess,
You have a
Mr.
question?
Chairman, my question is, we just talked about borrowing again, and one of the things we talked about borrowing for were wells.
That's correct.
And I don't have a plan for where we're going. We've never talked about where we're going with wells, we keep marching forward on them. I'm not saying we don't need them, but I don't understand where we're going or what the rhyme or reason to the plan is, and I'd like to see it.
I've got a full breakdown of the 1.8 million, if you'd like that as well. Shows you broke down by components.
And we've had wells that have had issues. We've had wells that we had to re-drill because they got stuff stuck in them when they were drilling them.
That's correct.
So I'm just trying to get a feel for how many wells we've got, what we're producing, and what the plan is for the future and what we're trying to get to capacity-wise.
Okay. If you look at what I just handed out, it'll give you a good overview. I'll go back to the original drawing if you want to look at that. Currently in the Carmel Church system, which is on Exhibit A, Carmel Church, we have the Petro number 3, number 4, Econolodge well, and Days Inn well in Carmel Church. The existing Days Inn well is a dry well. We have re-drilled the Days Inn number 2 well, which we are currently using, that needs the treatment on that facility. So the one well there that's shown, Days Inn 1, is actually the new well, projecting to have 3 new wells that will be included with that Days Inn well to be treated through that one treatment facility. Currently, we have no treatment facilities in the Carmel Church area for iron and manganese.
Okay?
Page 2 of that is the VDOT rest area. We currently have 2 wells out there, and it does have 1 green sand filter on that facility. Page 3 shows you the Lady Smith area. We have 1 well there that has a green sand filter on it. Very small system, 48 gallon per minute system there. With the proposed new wells, we've already drilled VSE number 1, VSE number 2. The Star Management well, which you'll see has a cross through it because it was very low production, we're going to, right now it's proposed to abandon that and then to drill another new well in that area and pipe all 4 of those into one treatment facility there.
So the new well that's at agenda item D, where is that going?
That'll be on your Carmel Church. We're going to re-drill the current, proposed re-drill the Econolodge well,
So
which
the
is next to
Econolodge
the...
well is no longer producing?
That's correct. If you go over to the second handout that I provided, you'll see the actual usage that we are able to, that we produced. That is not the approved amount. That is what we were able to produce by using the Days Inn well. That is not an approved well at this time. The second line, which is the purple line at the top, is our approved capacity, and then our actual pumping approved actual pumping capacity that is approved is the red line.
So the purple, the VHDA approved capacity that's way up above, we're not even approved at?
No, sir. That's what we're approved at. It's not what we can pump.
That's what we're approved at, that's not.
That's correct. The wells were certified years ago, and that's their current rating capacity until the health department comes in and re-rates each of these wells.
So what you're saying, Mr. Schiebel, is the wells were actually rated higher than what we're producing right now.
That's correct. You can see the difference between the purple line and the red line.
So theoretically, we could, if it was physically possible, we could pump more out of those wells we have. So there's capacity there.
No,
theoretically.
There's not capacity there. They have rated us at a certain rating.
Right.
Let's say it's 100 gallons per minute, and the well's only producing 80 now, so it can't produce any more than that. So we're seeing a decreased capacity in our wells, which is shown the difference between the purple line and the red line.
Which is why you need more wells.
That's correct. If you go to page 2, we've added 2 additional lines to that, actually 3. Of course, you see where I've bolded the current red line down there to show your actual pumping capacity. The blue aqua-colored line is the capacity with the Carmel Church wells that will put us at a point where we should be able to meet the demand. Note that this is, however, last year I'm showing actual production that we can do and actual usage. Our actual usage, we did not actually see a peak because we went under water restrictions and stopped all outside watering. Due to that, we never actually reached the peak of what we could have had, and we wouldn't have been able to provide that service at that time because we didn't have enough water. And if you look at the green line at the top is what it'll do when we get the wells on in Ladysmith.
Are they drilled, or is that what you're gonna drill?
The ones in Ladysmith, we've got 3 of those that are drilled, 2 of them that we will be able to use, and we're going to have to drill another new one in Ladysmith.
So what is our capacity per month total?
Depending on which month you're at, if you looked at your purple line on page 2, we can produce, depending on how many days are in that month, about 20 million gallons per month.
And what's our usage?
All right, Mr. Sealy, I'd like to let you ask as many questions as possible
Well,
about
I guess
well.
getting this tonight has made this difficult.
Right. Well, I understand that. And I think what we had planned to do, because I think Mr. Schiebel had said before, we actually needed a work session on public works and water and sewer. But we're talking about a $43,000 well.
Okay.
That we've expressed a need to have as soon as possible, and we already have the money for it. And I think you're asking great questions, which would be better suited for our venue when we talk about the whole water planning thing, and not for just this one particular well, because we're kind of getting off the one well subject. So if you don't mind, we will definitely let you address all those questions at the time when we have a planning session for public works, which I thought you said was going to be next month or the month after.
I'm ready when you are, sir.
Okay, is that all right? I mean, to go now? I mean, to just do this one well?
I understand.
Okay, thank you so much. You have a question on agenda item D.
Agenda item D, yes.
Agenda item D is the fire and rescue grant that is 100% funded with no local match required.
My only question is, we're getting 50 defibrillators.
Mhm.
Where do they go? Are they going in sheriff's vehicles? Are they going in county spaces?
This better be a yes or no answer.
40 of them are going to sheriff's office, 12 of them would, the other 10 would be staying with fire rescue.
I was as close to yes as no as I want.
That's fine.
Perfect. Okay. Agenda item D is okay. Stay here, Chief. 11. Agenda item E is to apply for a 2011 Volunteer Fire Assistance Grant from the Virginia Department of Forestry. What was the match?
The match is 50%. I can make it with additional grant funding from aid to locality. No county funds will be utilized.
I like when you say that.
My question, what are wildland operations?
Basically, the brush fire, wood fires, like we had on the 19th of February, what we're looking for is wildland gear, basically lightweight Nomex fire protection, but yet not the bulk of traditional firefighting equipment.
Yeah, because I always thought they were out in full turnout gear when they did these, so I didn't understand what this was.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's my question for E.
Good. Thank you, Chief.
Sir.
H is
And
the...
H, I'd just like to vote on separately, Mr. Chairman.
H is the actual approval of the comprehensive agreement between the County of Caroline and Mid-Eastern Builders for the design and construction of the Caroline County Wastewater Treatment Facility Expansion Upgrade Project. You would like to vote on that separately. Actually, that is on the consent agenda because Mr. Popowitz had questions at the last meeting, and you had all your questions answered.
Yes, sir. And in fact, if you'll indulge me for just a moment, I'd like to go through those for the audience so we can explain this.
We'll indulge you.
One of the things that we asked for was a preliminary schedule, which we did receive. We asked for them to reduce the markup on change orders from 15%, and we got that down to 10%, which could save the county money if we do have a change order. They also agreed to waive any interest payments on anything that was withheld, any payments that were withheld for up to 76 days in case there was a minor dispute or something that wasn't perceived as a dispute. And lastly, we had them waive the estimating cost for any change orders that may come about that we request, as long as it's not a large change order estimate. They would then get approval from us first before they went forward with the work. So I just wanted to, and I wanted to thank Ben for his work on this as well.
So basically, with your questions and the help of Mr. Emerson, you've ensured that the county will be protected a lot more than it was originally.
I believe so, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Popowitz. Mr. Seeley had pulled B, C, D, and E, and requested that H be separate. So can we have a motion to approve consent agenda B, C, D, and E?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Popowitz, seconded by Mr. Akers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Agenda item H, approval of comprehensive service agreements between County of Caroline and Mideastern Builders for the Caroline County Wastewater Treatment Facility plant expansion project. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Do you need a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I will make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
I was just kidding about only making one mistake. There's usually one an hour. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Mr. Popowitz has made the motion. Mr. Underwood has made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Chair detects division of the House. Mr. Underwood, how do you vote? Mr. Underwood votes aye. Mr. Popowitz, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Mr. Seeley, how do you vote?
Nay.
Mr. Seeley votes nay. Mr. Akers, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I vote aye. The motion carries 4-1. And we have completed the consent agenda. And it is slightly after 7:30, but at 7:30, we have our public comment section. Mr. Ashcraft has asked for a moment to, a moment or two, or 5, to address the board as part of the public comment section. For those of you who don't know, Mr. Ashcraft is leaving the county to work as a county administrator for Prince George County in Virginia, and this is his last week, so we are going to indulge him for that. Following that, Mr. Ashcraft's public comment, we will then have public comment from anyone who would like to speak on any subject that's not part of the consent agenda. So if you would like to speak about internet access in certain areas of the county, if you would like to speak about the Voting Rights Act that we're going to discuss a little later, you will be able to do that as part of the public comment section. Then we're going to have a public hearing on the budget, and because the county attorney makes me, we're going to have a separate public hearing on the proposed tax rate. And then we're going to continue with new business. So Mr. Ashcraft needs 5 minutes to get set up for his public comment. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and we are going to break again at 9 o'clock, regardless of where we are in the public comment section. So, Mr. Ashcraft will adjourn for 5 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. And for those who would like to speak for public comment for the budget or the tax rate, we will have a sign-up sheet to facilitate quicker access. And that will be right down at the press table.
That's public hearing.
Public hearing. Okay, so we're adjourned for 5 minutes. Sign-up sheets we have were for the public hearings, and I have 6 people for the budget and 3 people for the tax rate. And if there's nobody else that wants to sign up for those, we'll move on. I will give one last call. The board will reconvene, and this is the public comment section, and as stated before, Mr. Ashcraft, you have the floor for public comment.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Percy Ashcraft, and I'm a resident of the Madison District. For the last 11 and a half years, I've had the privilege of being your county administrator. And as of 12:01 a.m. Saturday morning, I will relinquish that authority and begin a new career path that will take me to Prince George County. With this being my final meeting of the Board of Supervisors, I hope you don't mind if I share some parting gifts with each of you. Mr. Underwood, and I'm being assisted here by Mr. Parton. Regretfully, I will not be able to work very long for you. And I want to publicly congratulate you on your appointment and wish you all the success that's ahead of you. And in order to make it through these days, and maybe years, however long that it might be, I've taken the opportunity to pick you up a survival kit. Now, I apologize for the bags, but included in this kit, and I'm going to ask Mr. Parton if he'll take these items out as I do this. There's Band-Aids, knowing that the remarks that are going to be made to you are going to cut pretty deep at times. There's some aspirin for those headaches that will soon appear if they haven't already. There's an ice pack to keep the swelling down for some of the verbal punches that are going to be thrown at you. Hopefully not physical. There's a compass in here to direct your path and to keep you between the lines. There's a set of binoculars that we hope to see that you will use, that when you see two board members huddled in a corner, you can get some idea what they're talking about. There's a lantern that can certainly light your path. And finally, there's a canteen that can contain your favorite beverage. And on some of these long nights, like now, you may want to consider something a little stronger than water. So good luck, Mr. Underwood, as you survive in this environment.
Thank you, Percy.
Mr. Seeley, over the last 3+ years, you pointed out on numerous occasions when there are cracks within our government system. I offer you this pack of Seeley putty.
As in silly putty.
To help in your efforts to make the necessary repairs within our operations. And I've also heard you from time to time bring the conversations back around to where topics can be discussed on the same level. Some of us, in common language, refer to that as comparing oranges to oranges or pineapples to pineapples, but I believe your phrase is apples to apples. So I want to present you with this card game, apples to apples, that might help you as you have a better dialogue with the staff in future years. And finally, in our conversations over the years, I've listened to your candid comments and appreciated immensely as you've shared your frustrations about some of the operations of our government. And there's come to be many things that I know that you dislike, and maybe appropriately so from where you're sitting from. I know you dislike our debt. I know you dislike the amount of borrowing. I know you dislike our sometimes creative finance system. I know you dislike our method of purchasing. I know you dislike certain rezoning decisions. I know you dislike certain utility investments. And even tonight, I know you dislike the consent agenda. And on a broader scale, you dislike the platform of the Democrat Party.
Not really.
So I would imagine that it's hard for you in your day-to-day, because you have a full-time job and you have a lot going on, to keep track of all the things that make you uncomfortable or what you dislike. So I'm trying to make it easy on you. I'm giving you this book that's entitled, I Hate Everything. And for quick reference, you can find just about everything that there is to dislike in this world. Right here it is, and I'd hope that you would appreciate that and use it to the best of your ability. Thank you very much.
All right, before he goes any further, we're going to fire you if anything comes out.
There's a contract agreement, Mr. Emerson, isn't that correct? They don't want to do that.
Bobby didn't go yet, and Wayne didn't go yet, and I got 3 votes.
Mr. Popowitz, a spirit of economic development you brought to this board when you were elected in 2007, and that was refreshing and has been very productive. And I'd like to leave you with the game of Monopoly as a reminder of the basic principles of economic development. I don't know how long it's been since you played that, but you might want to revisit that. And your recognition to upgrade our wastewater treatment plant and your efforts to correct the agreement and make sure it's fine-tuned, and now that's moving forward, and we'll see expansion of that $16.2 million facility. And that'll open up more economic development and residential opportunities in the future. I want to leave you with a symbol of that upgrade. Ms. Parton?
Thanks, Percy.
And as you know, you have found yourself from time to time in some serious discussions with residents of certain kinds, for certain kinds of development in your district. A certain gravel pit comes to mind. And there's another one being considered in the Planning Commission.
Yes, sir.
In order to do the proper research on these projects, I want to give you this construction set that should give you some keen insight on how this works. And for those of you who can't see this, you have the gravel pit and you have all the vehicles. And what's nice is for people humans 18 months or over. So I want to make sure that Mr. Popowitz has all that in place before those final decisions are made. And finally, Mr. Popowitz, and we have representatives of the county fair here this evening, you decided couple years ago, I don't know if you performed there, but you performed at the Relay for Life. You did some Johnny Cash songs, and everybody loved you. If you decide at some point that you want to give up politics in your future, we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to pursue a singing career. So we have a microphone that we have purchased that will certainly give you an awful lot of time to practice. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you, Percy. You need 3, Floyd?
Mr. Chairman, the Bible refers to the doubting Thomas.
I'm very proud of that.
Many times over the last 11.5 years, you've had to be convinced of the facts. You're not from Missouri, but you've always had to be shown. So I want to leave you with this bumper sticker that tells people straight up that you have to be convinced.
I'm from Missouri.
You also referred many times to your background in architectural design and the vast knowledge of technology. And it's not easy to get those two combined at the same time or in the same way. So I would like to present you with this Etch-a-Sketch that I feel like will take advantage of both of those things.
Yes.
And to give you something to do with this long public hearing that might be coming up on the budget.
Can I use it now?
One of our first opportunities together, we shared a bowling lane. And I swear to this day, I'm still not very good.
Yeah, right.
Well, I want to leave you with this miniature bowling game. That's kind of a reminder of that time. Even though the floor isn't very shiny, you can still play that in your spare time.
That was the first time you hustled me.
Wasn't the last either, was it?
Exactly. Exactly.
And finally, Mr. Chairman, I really want to be certain that a little piece of me is left behind to you, particularly you, as a reminder of my years of service. So I'm leaving you with one of Thomas the Toy Train's favorite characters and colleagues, Percy.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Your 3 minutes is up.
Mr. Akers, first let me congratulate you upon your retirement. And I know we've spoken a time or two about you taking up the game of golf. And I thought I would provide you with a set of clubs to complement the ones that you already have that will help you get started. Mr. Parton, would you?
They work good.
That work out good?
They're better than the ones I have.
And you've been another member of this board that has not been easily convinced. You've said many times, the proof is in the pudding. Well, the time has come for all of us to find out if the proof is in the pudding. We have pudding for you. We have pre-made pudding.
What's the flavor?
It's vanilla, sir.
Ah, that's good.
And we have traditional pudding. So somewhere within that, the facts shall remain. You've been the gatekeeper of the finances as a member of this board. And all of us know that every penny counts. And I'm leaving you with this piggy bank to continue to protect the finances of the county. And I'm also leaving you with some money to put in it. Thank you. You've also been a fighter for better internet and cable service to this community, and there's no doubt about it. And you've had some healthy exchanges with Comcast and others over the years right at this very podium. And let this remote control be a reminder of those discussions and hopefully of good things to come. And finally, Mr. Akers, everyone should have a theme song. You've been so active over the years in encouraging such developments as Ladysmith Village and Pendleton and others. And as a matter of fact, I'm one of those village people who have enjoyed that community. And your latest pursuit is to do something that benefits the health and well-being of all Caroline County citizens, whether they be young or old. Your efforts almost on a daily basis are to provide a place for kids to play, to enjoy safe after-school care, and summer camp opportunities. This song, Mr. Akers, for you. Let's cue it up. Who doesn't like that song, right?
There you go, first, thank you.
Oh, that was cute. That was cute.
Mr. Chairman, very quickly, if I may, on a more serious note, I want to thank the members of this board and the previous supervisors, Morris, Farmer, and Roselle, for the absolute privilege of serving you as your county administrator.
How about Taylor?
Beg pardon?
Taylor.
And Taylor, thank you, sir. Thank you. I had that further down, but that's fine. This community opened its arms to my family and me in October of '99, and you've allowed us to live our life's goals to the fullest extent. There's nothing that I wanted to do that I was not able to do while being here in Caroline County. Personally, you allow me to pursue the charity work that I so much enjoy, and hundreds of kids have been served as a result. I'm deeper in my faith today because I've worked for supervisors who seek spiritual guidance before they make crucial decisions. Our successes in this room and in the old courthouse where it all started have been many. And as a result, we've improved the quality of life in this community in every aspect for now over a decade. And as the face of Caroline changed, we changed with it. And we made it better both for the generations of families who live here and for those who moved here in recent years. I won't name all the projects that your leadership has accomplished during the years of my time, but I do believe a few are worth mentioning. Giving over 200 residents of Dawn their first real look at modern indoor plumbing immediately comes to mind. Developing a modern utility system for the growth areas of the county. making investments in public safety that have modernized the sheriff's office and has moved us toward a strong chief management system for our fire and rescue. You created a business environment that recruited the likes of MC Dean and McKesson and preserved the jobs at Value City and VSE. You preserved the history of this building and has now made it the hub of community activity. You answered the mandate of our district judge by building a new courthouse and remodeling the old one. And you wisely invested in a new government administration building that now allows our citizens to conduct their financial business in one single place. You recruited the State Fair of Virginia to the birthplace of Secretariat, and you reached All-America City status in 1999. When I arrived in Caroline in 1999, we had no email system for the county. Our only department internet source was a private account for then under Economic Development Director Jill Barr. Today, we've been recognized as having one of the most interactive websites and email systems throughout this Commonwealth. We're on top of the social mediums like Twitter and Facebook and have online surveys and chats that give our viewers a chance to offer their opinions and get in touch with any staff member at a moment's notice. Mr. Chairman, we discussed heavily this evening education. We've always struggled with providing enough resources to fund the public school division. But in my mind, you did the best you could with other sources competing for those dollars. I want to thank all the teachers and the administrators who invested their time into the lives of my children, all three of them. I've had the unique perspective of having a child at every level of this school system. And all three received the best education by some of the best teachers you will find anywhere, not only in this Commonwealth, but in this country. Beating each other over the heads with baseball bats is not the answer to advancing public education in Caroline County. My prayer is that an educational vision will be developed for this county and that egos will move to the back of the school bus and the children and their hope for a better future sit firmly in the front. Mr. Chairman, I would be remiss tonight if I didn't take a moment to thank the employees who I've had the privilege to oversee. They responded to duty in good years and not so good years. They took customer service seriously, and they made the citizens first in their daily tasks. I told the Caroline Progress yesterday that we've been lucky to assemble the best management team in the state, and we've kept it together for many years. These men and women could go a short way into the neighboring counties and earn more money, but they have chosen to invest their lives into Caroline County and all of its potential. My immediate staff of Alan Parton and Pam Hall are second to none. The next person who occupies this position inherits a loyal and committed pair who had no agenda other than to work hard for me and Caroline County. I want to thank the constitutional officers, again, second to none with their cooperation. They're as committed as any group that I've ever seen. And I also want to thank the members of the media for the professionalism that they have shown me over the years in their fair and unbiased reporting the facts as they have been presented to them. Mr. Chairman, Tony Dungy is quoted as saying, "It's about the journey, mine and yours, and the lives we touch, the legacy we can leave, and the world we can change for the better." I follow that up by saying it is so easy to be successful, but the best result is being significant. When you've made significant contributions, then you've touched lives for the better. We've done that, gentlemen, and I thank you for allowing me to join in that effort. In closing, Author Pam Kidd said it best when she said, "Even as I mourn what I'm